I'm good.
Okay, let's start the meeting. Roll call.
Mr. Jacobs?
Here.
Mr. Strackhoff?
Here.
Ms. Christie?
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Here.
Mr. Leonard?
Here.
Mr. Zupnik?
Here.
And Chairman Ketchel.
Here.
After notice of this meeting of the Bedminster Township Land Use Board was filed with the Township Clerk and sent to the Bernardsville News Bernardsville, the Courier News Somerville, and to all subscribers, and posted at the Township Municipal Building, 1 Miller Lane, Bedminster, New Jersey, on January 9th, 2017.
Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have some minutes to approve. We have June 8th. I assume you've had a chance. No comments? No. Anybody else? Any comments? Okay, we have a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained?
Oh, I guess I should have abstained. I was here.
You weren't? That's a good reason.
I was not here for June 8th.
All right, so we'll take Larry as the first, and then who else did the second?
No, I did.
Okay,
So
all right.
I can do the second, yeah.
Yeah, I shouldn't have moved.
Okay, then we have July 13th. Again, any comments?
No comment.
Motion?
Motion.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I abstain. Any opposed? Motion approved. Okay, we have some correspondence from Jeff Lear. He's asked for a postponement of the Remington Road application till September. Did they notice, or did they do?
They're going to have to renotice regardless of when they do it. Frankly, it would be my recommendation to the board that we don't schedule it for September 14th.
Okay.
Wait till they submit new documentation, then we schedule them. Otherwise, we keep this
I know.
on a meeting, and we should be able to get more business done than just waiting for them to come back in.
I totally agree with you.
Now, it's subject to having the appropriate extension. And maybe what we have to do is go back to them and make sure we have the sufficient extension.
They, in that letter, which is in your folder,
Yeah.
I believe they extended us to September 14th.
Well, I guess go back to them,
I suppose
Gina.
you'd have to carry it to September 14th, but I don't know, Tom, do you think we should just press them for a longer extension, or how do we?
I think you carry them to September 14th, 2017, and in the interim, try to listen to some candor from Mr. Lair to see if they really will be ready, and if it doesn't look like it, then we, make them go through another extension request and set the timing to further back. But
And I think we schedule our hearings as if they're not there. And I just don't think we can count on them showing up. At least if we have a small application, we should schedule it the same night, get that done first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sure. I totally agree with
Mr.
you.
Lair already submitted his correspondence and set forth the specific date. I think we carry it to September 14th.
Okay, so that's what we'll do. We don't need an approval on that, right? We'll just move it to 14th. Okay. We have a resolution for Great Oak Farm. We did have a comment from Nick, which was an excellent, I think, comment to make. So.
I did receive the board members' comments, and I'm going to suggest the following. On page 2, in paragraph 3, there is a parenthetical that says generally referred to as the red barn. And that's a typo. It should be red barn.
Right.
So that was the first of the board members' comments. Secondly, and more substantively, if you turn to page 4 of the resolution, paragraph 7, after the sentence that says top of the roof measures approximately approximately 41 feet above ground level, with an additional 18 feet required for the cupola and weather vane, I'm going to suggest that we add the following sentence. Mr. Engel testified that the cupola needs to be at its proposed size in order for it to appear proportionate to the arena and to other structures on the subject property, including the residence, period.
Yeah, that's a good change.
Excellent, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we read those two changes into the record, Tina. I will supply you with, Trina, I will supply you with a revised form of resolution, but we can adopt this resolution tonight as revised per our discussion here.
Okay, do I hear a motion with the approval?
Second.
Okay, Trina?
Ms. Chackoff?
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Znick?
Aye.
And Ms. Gutschall?
Okay, we have Old Farm Orchards, Paul?
That's for completeness.
Yes, mm-hmm. Yep, that's the one.
Different angles, I don't know if you got it.
I got the idea.
Red light, green light.
They've, subsequent to the prior completeness, they've submitted additional documentation, and subject to the waivers requested, is my recommendation that the application be completed. It is scheduled for hearing tonight.
I understand. And we need a motion on that?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Second.
Second, okay.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Mr. Chackoff?
Aye.
Ms. Christie?
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik?
Aye.
Mr. Avaglini?
Aye.
And Ms. Gutschall?
Okay. EDC Headwaters? Headworks, sorry, Headworks.
This is for modification to the EDC sanitary sewer plant. They had previously submitted, and we're missing quite a number of documents. Based on the resubmission, I wrote a letter dated August 4th where I've identified a couple of items that need to be submitted prior to the hearing, but other than that, it's our recommendation that the waivers can be granted and the application can be deemed conditionally complete, subject to getting those other items in. We can schedule that for hearing.
Okay. Paul, where exactly are we talking about on this building? Where is it?
It's mechanical equipment that's north of the treatment train. At the building itself.
Okay. Does it affect our property at the Hills Master?
No.
No?
Not at all.
It's
But
not
the far
there?
end of, as Paul said, far end of the treatment area,
At the treatment plant,
very
it's
north,
west of
on the west side of
206. Between 202, 206, and 287.
Okay, all right. I'm just thinking of myself and Jeff. We'd have a conflict if it was,
Right. Yeah, I don't think you'd be on the notice list.
okay.
you didn't get noticed, did you?
Is it two?
No.
Doesn't it have to be 200 feet or something?
Right.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
you might not even make it.
Right.
Highway is.
Yeah, I don't even know if it gets across the aisle.
Okay, all right. Again, we need a motion to approve any of them complete.
So moved.
Second.
Trina?
Mr. Jacobs?
Conditionally complete, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the motion is conditionally complete.
Yes.
Aye.
Mr. Chackoff?
Aye.
Ms. Christie?
Aye.
Mr. Rodelius?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik?
Aye.
Mr. Travaglini?
Aye.
And Ms. Gutschall?
Aye. And 1120 Leamington Road?
This is for a lot aggregate subdivision. It was previously deemed incomplete. Additional information has been provided. However, while I haven't done a complete technical review, there is some missing information. For example, it's my opinion that the resource constraints calculations are not complete because they don't address the floodplain on the property, which I think expands the critical area, therefore reduces the potential lot yield. That needs to be included in the calculations. And additional information, in my opinion, needs to be provided on the stream detail of the stream crossing. While I don't think the board needs a fully designed stream crossing, I think there should be some basic information as to how this crossing is going to be accomplished with the drive. So based on that, those checklist items are not complete. My recommendation is that the application be deemed incomplete.
Okay. We need a motion on that as well?
So move. Second.
Mr. Jacobs?
The motion is to deem it
Incomplete.
Aye.
Mr. Strackoff?
Aye.
Ms. Christie? Aye. Mr. Odelius?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik?
Aye.
Mr. Travellini?
Aye.
And Ms. Gutschall?
Aye.
Ms. Chair,
Yes.
person. I don't think you asked for public comment.
I didn't, this thing confuses me. Every time I have this agenda, I do the same thing. Is there anyone here who would like to make a comment or a question about something that's not on the agenda? Seeing no one, we will continue. Okay, I think we're ready for our hearing for Old Farm Orchards.
Green light.
It's green light, it's your turn.
Mother man. There's military habits die hard,
Yeah.
I'm talking about mine. Good evening, my name is Anthony Sarah, I represent the applicant, Old Farm Orchards LLC. We are here for preliminary and final site plan approval to create and construct something that's somewhat unique, a cidery. I have two witnesses, John Coates, who is the principal and owner of Old Farm Orchards LLC, and someone I guess you've seen a few times before, is Mr. Fox, who wandered in a little late, but
He's here now.
I'd like, you really don't want to hear from me, you want to hear from the witnesses, so without further ado, maybe we can swear in our first witness here, Mr. Coates.
Raise your right hand, please, sir. State your name for the record, please.
John B. Coates.
You swear to affirm any testimony about this matter, is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
John, you can sit and relax. All right. We can share this microphone. As I understand it, you want to build a cidery, is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you tell us what a cidery is and what you plan to do here?
A cider is a facility where we make alcoholic apple cider. We plan to build a pole barn that will have a production facility for making that cider. It will also contain a tasting room that will be open to the public.
Where'd you come up with this idea?
I grew up in Vermont. I loved apples. I've always loved apples. By the time we moved out of Manhattan 5 years ago, we had actually planted specific apple tree varieties before we had actually, on our property in Bedminster, before we had actually moved out to Bedminster.
Tell the board something about the production operation itself, how it will work, what the source of the apples will be, process itself.
Okay, so initially, as we wait for the trees to bear fruit, we will have to rely entirely on outside vendors for our juice supply. Over time, apple trees take about 3 to 4, maybe 5 years before they bear fruit. So over time, the plan is to use a combination of juice from our own production, but also that from outside suppliers.
How many acres of apple trees do you plan to, are you planting?
We are planning to plant about 240 trees on approximately 2.6 acres.
And the balance of the property is wooded?
Correct.
It's my understanding that you are going to engage the services of someone that's going to prepare a woodland management plan for the balance of the property, is that correct?
Correct.
And when you can apply for client assessment.
Exactly.
The processing of the apples to create cider, how is that done?
So first of all, we expect to take deliveries of juice only. There will be no apples pressed on the facility, so there will be no solid fruit waste. The juice is pumped into stainless steel vessels, fermentation tanks. Nature takes over, and the fermentation process is actually the process by which the yeast, that the cultured yeast that we will add, convert the sugars that are naturally present in the apple juice into alcohol and carbon dioxide.
How long does it take to, for the apple juice and the sugar, whatever else you add, to ferment into the good stuff?
That's a good question. It takes, the answer is it takes weeks to months. It depends every time. We think that we can turn the tanks over about 3 times a year. So we're betting that we can do it within a 4-month period per cycle.
What does that translate to in terms of the number of deliveries of what I'll refer to as the juice?
That's again, a good question. I'll give it in terms of the outer limit of what the facility, what we would need if the facility were operating at max capacity. So the facility itself will have capacity to accommodate 16 of these fermentation tanks. And if we can turn them over 3 times in a year, those 48 cycles translate into 18 truck deliveries over the course of the entire year, which averages out to be about 1 delivery for every 3 weeks at full capacity.
Once you've been running and assuming you're at full capacity, you can utilize all of these 16 vats or whatever they are, how many employees will you have?
At full capacity, we're expecting to have, the goal is to have 5, and that is in 5 years. Initially, we're going to start off, I will be the sole employee. That's the base case. I'd aim to add 1 or 2 by the end of the first year, and then ramp up to 5 within 5 years.
And in terms of percentages, if you are running at full capacity and after a period of time and your orchards are now producing what they are supposed to be producing, what percentage of the apple juice will come from your apples as opposed to juice that you import?
Oh, I mean, it's a substantial amount. I don't know the answer. I think we'll always aim to secure outside supply, just because there could be blight in our own crop. From time to time, there could be spikes in demand that you just don't accommodate. You can't accommodate with a fixed number of trees in any one year. But the exact procedures are going to vary from year to year.
Assuming you have a normal crop, it's not a bumper crop, and all of these trees are producing fruit, what percentage of how much do you need to bring in?
So I think our own production could be a little over 50%. Especially initially, once they're ramped up. But over time, I just don't know how things are going to grow. It certainly could be less than 50%.
Describe the manufacturing or the processing operation. You've got containers. Just tell us a little bit of how this works, modeling, etc.
So once the product is fermented to dryness, once it's been conditioned and aged and it's ready for packaging, a couple things can happen. It can stay in bright tanks, stainless steel tanks, for longer term storage. It can also be packaged at that point into kegs or bottles or cans. We don't plan to have any bottling capacity. Initially, we won't have any kegging and canning capacity. We're going to outsource that, and we will invite basically a packaging contractor to come in and do the final packaging for us.
And over time, you hope to be able to generate enough capital where it's cost effective for you to do that on site with your own equipment?
That's right. Initially, because the capital outlays for this type of equipment is very high, it reduces, it basically reduces our the capital at risk by outsourcing initially until we have enough production to justify the expense.
How will you market your cider?
Again, good question. There's initially...
They're all good questions.
There's word of mouth. I think there's a large component that benefit that comes from having a tasting room where so many people pass by on Route 206. You know, I'm going to shy away from any direct advertising initially because, again, that's, you know, other than very modest things, you won't see us having, you know, any spots on national TV anytime soon. But it will be a combination of traditional means as well as the easier, more updated ways, social media, you know, things like that.
Will there be, for lack of a better description, mail order? Would someone be able to contact your facility and get a cider shipped to them?
I don't, I think that is possible within New Jersey. I don't think you're allowed, and I'm not entirely sure about this. Mail order, the mail order act channel, I have not investigated. I think you're allowed to do that within the state of New Jersey. If you're a resident in New Jersey, you can have cider mailed to you. But distribution, our aim is really, you know, the vast majority is we're wholesaling, so we look to sell to bars and restaurants and the Wegmans of the world.
You'll also offer your cider on site for both purchase and package purchase and also consumption?
Yes, so we'll offer it for on-site consumption and for off-site consumption.
And the on-site consumption is what you refer to as a tasting room?
Correct.
What hours of operation are you proposing for your facility?
Our philosophy is we want to be able to, you know, have the opportunity to sell to the public for as many hours as the market could bear. Specifically, we'd like to be open between 12 p.m. and 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday, 12 to 6 on Sunday.
You think those hours are sufficient to meet the needs of this particular unique product here?
The answer is we don't know yet. I wish I had more specifics. We have to, this is a startup. We have to see. But I think at this point, that's the window we would like to work with.
Anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, you know, as most of you know, most startups will fail over the first few years. The reason that we're willing to take this type of risk is that there's nothing that I could, you know, that I would love to do more than to invest in Bedminster, try to put roots down in the community, and perhaps create jobs along the way. And the reason that we're here in front of you is that we know that we can't do it alone. And so I'm asking for everyone's support.
I have one question I neglected to ask. Will there be different varieties of cider?
Absolutely. Maybe not more than one or two initially, but you know, I'd love to have a lineup of 6, 7, maybe more of different blends, single varietals. You know, just trying different things, different yeast, adding other flavors like gingers or hops or you know, other fruits.
Does the will they each have a different kick?
all that are, you know, sanctioned within the license that's getting provided. But yeah, the kick will depend on the amount of sugar that's initially present in the juice.
So what's the high, what's the low?
I believe it's around 5 to 8%.
I have no additional questions of this witness.
Any questions from the board? Larry?
You plan on using local or New Jersey apples, or you'll take juice from wherever it comes from?
So, the answer is yes. I've contacted a couple of the local orchards that you would think of. The largest supplier of apples happens to be in the neighboring town. The largest supplier of apples in New Jersey is in a neighboring town. If I could satisfy all my needs with the local apples, including the apples that we already have on our own property and the apples that we will be growing, I'd be thrilled. If we have to expand and look into, other areas, either further away in New Jersey or into New York or Pennsylvania, then we'd consider that as well. I mean, we happen to be lucky in that this area in New Jersey, as well as New York, which is the second largest producer of apples in the nation, and Pennsylvania is the fourth. The supply of the crop is pretty abundant.
Seems to be pretty knowledgeable about apples. Good job, Tom. And you talked about the hours of for the retail operation. When you're going and you passed your 1, 2, 3 year sunsetted time and you're in full operation, what do you think the hours for operation will be at that point?
I think that for the production area, I'm guessing, but the hours that I would look to is something a little more standard. It'd probably be 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay.
There could be spikes and that'd be on weekdays. Could be spikes, in activity related to seasonal demand, something like that.
And you mentioned on the seasonal issues, so when, the apples are a fall or late summer crop, so are you in production throughout the calendar year, so you're getting juice in, or is this basically you run your production in fall or in early winter and then you live off that production for the rest of the year?
That is, again, it's a great question.
Oh, thanks.
But they're not all great questions.
No, not all of them.
When I said that you could get 3 cycles in the permit, tanks over, what I specifically meant by that is you can actually get juice early enough in the fall so that the tanks are done with the fermentation process with that round, transfer that, rack goes to different tanks, and then create space for another delivery late in the fall, a second delivery late in the fall, early in the winter. And then you can get a third delivery later in the winter. And so those are the 3 delivery cycles, and that's got to last you throughout the year, unless you can find some way to turn it faster.
So then you get those 3 delivery cycles, you run through the fermentation, you send out to the packager, and then I presume that during the summer season, you are doing the tasting room because you're not in production at that point,
right,
and just running the tasting operation at that time.
That's right, and
okay.
you're living off of the inventory of finished goods.
Okay, thank you.
Well, aren't you running the tasting operation year-round?
Yes, I hope that once I get up and running, once I have finished goods, I would like the tasting room to be open.
Very good.
I'm confused about one thing with the apples. You say there's no apple product. How do you get your apples from apple to juice if you don't have a
No pressing, you mean?
pressing? Yeah.
There are contract pressers out there.
So the apples will go off?
They'll go off, we collect them.
Mm-hmm.
They will be trucked over to another facility. It
Mm-hmm.
might be my barn at my own home. I have a hydraulic press already, but if I couldn't handle large numbers, and this is going to be large numbers of apples. And
Yeah.
So one of the neighboring, apple orchards in the area will be willing to do that.
And then they'll ship the juice back to this location?
I don't know if they'll ship.
Well, it'll...
They're not too thrilled with it. I think it's easier for me to do all the shipping, but it's more cost effective.
Well, I didn't mean specifically who, but it gets shipped. It gets shipped back to this location as juice.
Yes.
I see.
No composting, no fruit waste on site ever.
No, there's not. I mean,
Well, obviously, whatever hits the ground in the orchard is going to be what hits the ground in the orchard, but you're not going to have waste product from actually pressing apples on site.
Correct.
And you don't see that in the future? I mean, adding that?
No, I
Press.
don't want that.
You don't want that?
There are, and I have an economic incentive. I cannot press apples economically as efficiently as some of these larger players. And I don't want to be in that business, that portion of the business. I would happily pay them to do it for me.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Yes, Kathy, go ahead.
I have a question about your acres. How many acres do you have there?
The lot is 8.38.
8.3. How many are you going to propose to be farm assessed? Approximately.
It's 7.7, I believe. Is that correct? It's 4.7 will be under silviculture and 2.6. That's 7.3, sorry. 7.38.
Will be farm.
Okay.
The building and the immediate
No, wait, sorry.
surrounding building will not be subject to formal assessment. But the balance of the property, we hope will be.
Rich, you have?
Oh, so you mentioned the business risks associated with a venture like this. If you follow your pro forma, how long before you're in the black?
3 years.
3 years.
And what do you mean by in the black? Net income?
Just not drawing on your investors anymore, kind of sustaining yourself.
It's 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
And how long before you know if it's going south?
It's.
The reason why I ask, I mean, you're making a commitment.
Yes.
You know, how long before you decide to pull the plug, and if things go as you planned,
Yeah.
you know, when would you know that this is a gainful enterprise?
The honest answer is that it's very difficult when you're in it to realize that you made a mistake. And so the emotional component would
Keep you going.
would be hard to, offset. And you have to stand back sometimes and just assess and look at the numbers. So if the numbers don't make sense, that's why we have a base case plan. If they don't make sense relative to what we thought we could do, then the thesis has changed. And if the thesis has changed, then we have to change mine.
Thank you.
I didn't see any signage. Do you plan to have signage either out front or on the building or,
That, I'm not the question. You want to take that or?
I can answer that.
Oh, okay, fine. All right. All right. Anyone else on the board? Seeing no one? I guess. Oh, Paul, sorry. Paul, I'm sorry.
Part of the tasting operation, I didn't see any, but we don't have any proposal for food service
Right.
in there.
Correct.
I would guess it'd be crack, chips, pretzels, kind of thing, but no.
Can't serve
food, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I can or not, but I'm not going to have a kitchen. I don't want to do anything with food.
Okay. Frank?
Would you anticipate any kind of an event schedule where you would try to bring groups to the site?
No, it's really not going to be set up that way. I have no plans to have those.
Okay.
But for a lot of people to come.
Just cider, no brandy.
No, in fact, that's a different license.
It is.
And I'm not sure that I'd be able to, even if I had a distilled spirits license, I'm not sure I could do it on the same premise.
Interesting.
Okay. Okay, I think we are ready for your next witness.
Anyone from the public have any questions?
Oh, no, I'm not good tonight. I don't know. Anyone in the public have any questions for this witness? Seeing none. No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Fox, please.
A lot of helpers.
I do. I don't know what's with me tonight. It must be summer.
Also a shared service program.
You did a pretty good job.
I can't see Frank now. I don't know what faces he's making. Is Frank late? Oh, there he is. He's here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good.
So this is, let's have you sworn in first. Raise your right hand, please. State your name for the record. Paul Fox. Swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
Fox, you've been qualified before this board before as a professional engineer and planner?
Just engineering.
Just an engineer. Very well, thank you. Would you take us through the site plan, if you will?
Sure. My first exhibit tonight is sheet 4 from the plan set.
Hey, Paul, can you use the microphone? You can take
it out of the stand, yeah.
Have you been here before?
It's cordless.
I usually don't move around.
We're going to mark this as the day you want.
This is a color rendered version of our plan sheet 4.6. And this shows the general improvements to the site as well as the grading and stormwater features that are associated with what we're proposing. Dark green is the forested areas of the site, and the light green is the existing field here that you see when you drive by on Route 206. The proposed building will be put as far to the rear to the site as we can, and will provide necessary grading to ensure good drainage around the building. The idea being to tuck it into the existing corner of the field so it doesn't stand out and dominate the field. Rather, the apple orchard will do that. There'll be a driveway coming in from Route 206 with a 24-foot wide entrance that provides two-way traffic coming in and out of the site. The area up here at the building provides for a delivery truck to be able to pull in and back up to the facility and load or unload as necessary. Employee parking will be to the rear, while customer parking will be to the front. So there's 6 parking spaces proposed on this plan, and I'll address some of the revisions that Mr. Ferrara requested to that. Stormwater runoff from the proposed building and the driveway will flow naturally downhill to a bioinfiltration detention basin proposed for the lower portion of the site adjacent to Route 206. From there, stormwater will be discharged to an existing culvert that goes under Route 206. The proposed driveway and employee parking would be gravel. The customer parking would be paved, as well as the proposed handicap parking space. There would be a small outdoor patio area off the north side of the building where customers that are in the tasting and sales area could go outside and sit and enjoy a nice afternoon. There will be lighting for the parking area, and no lighting is proposed for the driveway. Given the proposed use, we don't feel that it's necessary, keeping with a farm appearance. We will provide lighting at the parking area to provide for safety and security of people that are parking there.
Do you want to take us through the other governmental agencies that have had a crack at this application and what approvals we've secured or what communications we've received?
Sure. I believe we did receive approval from the Somerset County Planning Board. We have received approval from the Soil Conservation District. We have received a conditional approval from the Board of Health. The approval being conditioned on review and approval by the County Health Department, because this does involve the survey of the case site.
Just for the benefit of council is preparing a resolution of the approval from Soil Conservation dated July 25, 2017.
You want to, I didn't see that in our package, do you want to leave us a copy and we'll mark it as Exhibit A2?
Sure.
I can keep this, right?
Yes, you can.
As part of the plan, we're requesting 4 waivers from the development requirements of the township ordinance. The first being providing landscaping, because this is a farm setting. We didn't want the building looking like it's some sort of a retail establishment. We wanted to keep it looking like it is a farm building. So we're requesting approval not to provide any landscaping at this time. The second waiver is for paving and curbing the proposed driveway and the parking area, simply because, again, with the proposed operation, it would be consistent with the farm appearance that we're looking to provide here. The third waiver we're requesting is for the width of the access drive. We originally requested that the 12-foot wide access drive be permitted, whereas a 24-foot wide drive is required. Mr. Farrow has asked us to provide a 20-foot wide driveway, and I prepared a plan, which I'll show shortly, just so the board can see what that looks like with a 20-foot wide driveway. Finally, with respect to the tree replacement requirement, the applicant is required to replace, provide 200 replacement plantings for the proposed tree removal. He's proposing to install 240 apple trees, but of a smaller size than what is required by the township code. So we're requesting an approval of a waiver for that. Just so the board can get a better understanding, the overall existing amount of forested area on the site is just under 5 acres. And the amount of woods that will be cleared as part of the proposal is less than a quarter acre. There'll be a small amount of clearing adjacent to the barn, as well as a small amount of clearing where the detention basin is being constructed. Otherwise, the vast majority of the existing forested area on the site will be maintained. Everything else on the site that's the existing field, unless occupied by the building, the driveway, or the septic system, will be planted with apple trees.
You want to take us through the reports from the professionals?
Sure.
Before you do that, is that the septic system that's shown on here to the left of the building? Is that what that is?
That's correct. Essentially right in front of the building. It'll be part of the grading going down to the field.
Thank you.
With respect to Mr. Ferraro's report, he did ask that the proposed driveway be widened to 20 feet rather than the 12 feet as proposed. And what I've done is I have prepared a revised plan in sheet 2, the site plan sheet, that shows what that would look like. I'm going to hand that out now to the board.
We'll mark this as Exhibit A3. It's a revised sheet 2 of the preliminary and final site plan. There's A3
Thank you.
So this is a revised sheet 2, revised August 7, 2017, that provides for a 20-foot wide gravel driveway.
Thank you.
Coming in from a paved entrance that is still 24 feet wide. And then to address Mr. Farr's request for some additional parking, we provided an additional 6 parking spaces that are essentially opposite the originally proposed 6 parking spaces. That will provide for a total of 12 parking spaces, which is 1 more than what the township standards would require. We don't have any other concerns with respect to the remainder of Mr. Farrell's comments. Obviously, we'll meet with this office to resolve those comments as well as any concerns with respect to the stormwater control.
So the applicant consents to, or has agreed to comply with all of the remaining comments set forth in the report, right?
That's correct. The one issue I did want to mention is we have requested a waiver from having to provide a letter of interpretation from the DEP. There is a small wetland area at the very southwest corner of the site, immediately adjacent to Route 206. And if you think about that part of the highway, there's a large high-tension power transmission line that comes through here. That is the right-of-way for the power line, and this is where all the power utility company vehicles go through and cut on a yearly basis. And a wetland has developed there just because of a poor drainage condition. These wetlands drain out to a culvert which goes over to the other side of the highway, which is the Willow School property. Our firm did the work there. The wetlands that this drain to are all classified as intermediate resource value wetlands with a 50-foot transition area. So what we've done is we've respected that 50 feet around that wetland area. And we would ask for a waiver from having to obtain an LOI from the DEP.
Paul, you okay with that?
That's on page 2 of Paul's report.
Right, and subsequent to my letter, there was an additional letter submitted by PK Environmental that I believe the board has, where there's some additional detail relative to the wetlands, the potential species that might be in the area, et cetera. My opinion is on that letter that waiver of an LOI is appropriate, particularly given the distances from the proposed work to the small area of wetlands.
Anything else, Paul, that you might?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I would like to go through in my letter. You mentioned that one of the waivers you need is for tree size, and you may not be the one to answer this, maybe the applicant who has the knowledge of the apples. Why is it appropriate to have smaller trees if they're going to be apples?
I know the answer, but it'll sound better coming from John.
Thank you. A good question. Simple answer is that they're just not commercially available. The reason that these are specialized apple varieties that we're buying, just like you wouldn't, the analogy I like to make is that you wouldn't make wine out of a supermarket grape. You know, likewise, you don't want to make cider with supermarket apples. We've studied it, we've researched it, we source these apples in quantity, these apple trees, from, you know, a few of these nurseries that specialize in this type of thing. They do not make it commercially available. The reason that they don't have sizes available larger than what we've gotten, we're buying the largest sizes available, is that the larger trees tend to have higher transplant risk and lower survivability rates. So that's the rationale.
Any follow-up to that?
Yes, go right ahead.
How much more than these trees than the required trees per plan? Maybe?
1 inch versus 2.5 inch.
No, we have a requirement from the township about how big the tree should be, and how much smaller are the trees proposed?
As you said, 2.5 inch, 3.5 is the standard that's required, and these are 1 inch trees. Sorry, it's the 2.5 inch, I believe, is the requirement, and we have a 1 inch.
So your tree is,
I could be
wrong. Less than half the size of the required tree,
So
even though there's 20% more.
Maybe I misheard what you said. I thought the requirement was to replace it with a 2.5 inch caliber tree. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I had misheard you.
And you're replacing it with a 1 inch tree.
Correct.
40%, tree is 40% of the requirement, but there's 20% more trees than you're calling. Right?
And really, that is kind of the answer I expected relative to the specialized nature of the trees on the site. From my perspective, also, in the board's determination, I think that's a valid reason because it's associated with site use. It creates the orchard look. I recall, as I drive to my office in Chester every year, when Allston Farms planted their orchard along Dover Chester Road, 513. And I remember when they planted those little twigs, I said, they're never going to get apples. Next year, they have. I was shocked how quickly they went.
So do they grow relatively quickly, the trees?
Well, no more quickly than
Any other tree?
Okay. Paul, anything else?
Yes, what is the status of your beauty? Have you made that application?
We haven't made that application yet.
Okay, you agreed to the other items in my letter. How about the sign? I don't think we talked about that. Is it the plan show a building mounted sign but no sign at the street?
Right, at this point, the plans for the sign haven't come together yet, and I think ultimately, when you look at what permitted signs sizes are for the zone for permitted use, it's only, I think, 2 square feet. So I think what the applicant wants to do is give it some thought or during the first year of getting up and running, and then, if necessary, come back to the board for an approval for a sign.
I would assume initially you at least have a sign with the street number on it.
Right.
And then if you need, any sign would be compliant with the ordinance, and then you have to come back here for it.
Exactly. That's right.
As you change the, I'll get back to that. Solid waste management. Take that?
Yeah.
Well, what do you, so there'll be regular trash, but the solid waste? Well, there's no trash enclosure shown on the plan. So generally when we see a production facility, commercial sites, we'll call it that, there's always usually a trash enclosure that has cans in it for, or containers in it for garbage and recycling. What is the proposal here? Because there's no place inside the building to store that, or at least it didn't seem like. Right, that's correct. There are no plans for any trash enclosures at this point. But what are you going to do with the trash will come out of the facility? Yes. Where is it going to be placed?
I think the easy answer is we would probably provide a simple trash enclosure just at the end of the truck backup area, enclose the fencing, so it'd be very easy for the garbage truck to come in and pick it up.
I think we should get that detailed on the plan.
We would include that, yes.
Suggest that be subject to Mr. Ferrero's review and approval.
Coming back to probably the largest question is, as you increase the width of your driveway and the parking, and now this trash area, you're increasing your lot coverage.
That's right.
So you're going to need variance.
That is correct. The widening the driveway out to 20 feet and then adding 6 parking spaces here results in a lot coverage value of 6.15%, which exceeds the permitted value in the zone of 5%. So we are requesting tonight a variance for lot coverage to permit the 6.15% lot coverage.
Do you know off the top of your head how many square feet that is? An arithmetic question. How many acres is the lot? 8.33.
While you calculate that, Mr. Fox, I just want to bring to the board's attention, I was handed a copy of the Somerset County Planning Board approval, and I've simply marked it as Exhibit A for today's date.
Okay.
Over about 1,500 square feet?
43. The overage, you mean, Paul?
Yes.
The 1.1, looks like 4,338 square feet. If it's 8.3 acres, then we're talking about 1.15% of that.
So what is the justification for that?
I can discuss that. The benefits of the variance are a couple things. First of all, if we were to put the building down at the front setback line, as would be permitted, the shorter driveway would actually result in a 4.78% lot coverage, would be completely conforming. The benefits is that by keeping the building to the back and in the corner of the field, we preserve this view shed, which is part of the gateway into Bedminster. It's part of a clustering concept where we try to keep the buildings located off in terms of away from the center of focus, and have the field be really the focus for the property, rather than having the facility in the middle. Again, if we put the building down at the existing front setback, we could actually be conforming.
Mm-hmm.
This preserves contiguous open space on the property, and keeps development further off the roadway, actually increases the setback by about 250 feet from what would ordinarily be required.
We'll have at the negative criteria, any downside to granting the relief, variance relief request?
Well, the only downside is that there is increased stormwater runoff, but we address that and mitigate that with the proposed stormwater management system. In terms of furthering the purpose of the municipal land use law, this actually addresses 4 of the specific purposes listed in the municipal land use law: providing adequate light, air, and open space, ensure that development of your municipality does not conflict with development of neighboring municipalities. And what I mean specifically to that, Chester Township to the north actually requires that the 200 feet in the front of the property, anywhere along Route 206, be kept from development. So in doing this, what we're doing is actually consistent with the adjoining municipality. We also promote a desirable visual environment and promote the conservation of historic sites and districts, open space, energy resources, and valuable natural resources, specifically the view shed of entry in Bedminster on the north.
So, Mr. Cesaro, I think this is a C2 variant?
Yes.
Correct. The only other comment that let me go back to that. I'll let Frank talk to the planning aspects of the variance, but from an engineering perspective, I agree that the site could be made conforming if you had the building up on the setback.
Sure.
And as we discussed, there are probably reasons why that's not necessarily the best solution for this application. The last comment I have relates to stormwater. And as the board sees in my letter, I have the shortest stormwater review report you've seen probably ever. That's because there are a number of details that need to be worked out. I have not itemized them all here. I can tell you that generally the report does comply with the standards. I'm sure Mr. Fox can go through them fairly briefly what the requirements are. But there will be some tweaks and modifications that need to be done. I think the most effective way to do that is through a meeting with his office and my office, and we can work out the details. But I can tell the board that it's my opinion that the site can be designed in compliance with the stormwater standards.
With the expansion of the road width?
Yes, the expansion of the road.
Okay.
And Paul, just to be clear, when Mr. Fox first introduced the 20-foot wide, he did propose it as for our consideration. And based upon what you heard with the 20-foot wide versus 12-foot wide, your recommendation is to go with the 20-foot wide?
My recommendation was to go with 20.
Okay.
24 is what the ordinance requires for all commercial sites. This is a bit of a hybrid. It's a farm operation essentially, but it has public access. I think 12 is too narrow. 20 allows the 2 vehicles to pass each other throughout. And I think it's an appropriate width for this type of use.
Okay.
If it was 12, would they need the variance?
If it was 12, they would not need a variance for lot coverage, but they would need a greater deviation from the design standard for the driveway width. In my opinion, I'd rather have the wider driveway grant the variance because it could be done and made to comply. And again, is that the right answer or not? I leave that to you to decide.
Also, there's no curbing saying cheat and go on the grass.
A little.
Well, and that's the reason why I'd rather have a 20 feet wide rather than 12, which is far less likely to get off that 12-foot wide.
Right.
Right.
The 20-foot wide, yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, Frank, yeah?
Yeah, I think the testimony that's been brought forward so far addressed almost all the comments I had that were questions about the operations or any of the specifics. And I called attention to something in my report that we should just spend a minute on, which was the definition of a farm. And what the board needs to understand here, and I'm not trying to lobby your opinion in any respect, so these are just facts. If there were no farm as it's identified in our ordinance associated with this application, this would be a commercial use variance.
Right.
Or industrial, or however you want to look at it. And it would be something that's clearly not permitted in the R10 zone. So your finding that it is a farm is the reason that what's been proposed here would allow that farm produce to be rendered in the fashion that we're talking about. We talk about no apple pressing on the premises, and you probed a little bit more about where the apples go off-site to get pressed. He has the ability to send them any place off-site. The fact that he mentioned that there might be something at home that he uses now, I don't think he wants us to consider that to be the place he's going to take the apples to be pressed as part of this operation. But I'm not trying to put those words in his mouth. He will have that opportunity. And I think the only point that you have to conclude is where the ordinance says at least 5 acres devoted to the growing and harvesting of crops. Clearly, they said that farmland assessment will cover 7.9 of the 8.33 acres, part of it under woodland management, part of it as the orchard. And the question for you is, does the woodland management component satisfy you that acreage is part of what is devoted to the growing and harvesting of crops? I'm not looking for you to conclude one way or the other. I'm just saying that I think that's a question you need to address so that the finding that you make makes it clear that it stays with the land use board and one of your ancillary variances that you can grant as part of the site plan.
Thank you, Frank.
Let me also say that I think the question has been addressed previously by both the engineer and Tom's office, and I think they concluded, in fact, that it was a farm. So I'm not here to lobby you to conclude that it's not a farm. I'm just saying I think you have to make that determination so that the record's clear about what you found.
Well, so our council, planning board council, land use board council, did come to the conclusion that this constitutes a farm?
Well, again, as Frank indicated, this board should make a decision as to whether this is in fact a permitted use. If you find that it's not, then the applicant will require a variance. It's my opinion that Bedminster has historically been a pro-farm municipality. It's a regular farm town.
Well, true.
Here they're making cider, selling cider. That to me seems like a farming or what's the actual phrase here? Silviculture activity. I do think that the applicant has presented a strong argument to its testimony that it is in fact a permitted agricultural or farm use. It should be a permitted use. That being said, as I indicated, it's a decision that I think the board should make, a finding that I think the board should make. Perhaps you should do that sooner than later before we continue with further testing.
Now, there was the comment about the farmland assessment, but a farmland assessment is under a state program, and our definition of farm is a municipal.
You would not need farm assessment to be considered a farm according to our definition.
Right.
So the fact that he doesn't have it now doesn't affect the application in that regard.
The fact that he could have it in the future for the woodland management area.
You could have it for 7.9 acres, like they said.
Right, so it doesn't, so to me, I'm looking at, there's one way, which is that the orchard itself is 2.7, 2.3?
2.6 acres.
2.6 acres, but you then have a woodland management area, which could be, under state program, farmland assessed.
I assume they're going to try to get it.
Right. So
Yeah.
if you already have a state determination that management of wooded area constitutes farming. And I just want to see how that, is that itself silviculture, and was that what was considered when Tom, I don't want to say came to the conclusion, but the recommendation that this would constitute a farming use consistent with our zoning ordinance?
Right, and permitted farm use, Frank has this definition on page 2. Farm shall mean a tract with at least 5 acres devoted to the growing and harvesting of crops and/or the raising and breeding of animals, including truck farms, fruit farms, nurseries and greenhouses, equestrian ownership, boarding and training facilities, silvicultural operations, dairies, and livestock produce, provided that no commercial slaughtering shall be. So
You're not slaughtering these apples, right? Just to be clear here.
That definition, I think, is the touchstone of your analysis.
And I think also, if we look at what is the permitted use in the zone, permitted use in the zone says farms, including agriculture, agronomy, etc. So this is, in my mind, an agricultural use.
I agree.
Farms produce food, produce drink. That's what they do.
I guess the issue, I mean, and
Could be a dairy.
I don't want to put in words into, it's not, but she highlighted at least 5 acres. So I'm trying to come to, is your issue the 5 acres versus the 2.6?
If you believe that between silviculture on 5.3 acres and orchard on 2.6 acres gives you 7.9 acres of land that's in some agricultural qualifier that makes this a farm, we're done.
Okay.
Say that, and we move on.
Okay.
Not trying to overdo it. I just want to make sure that the record's very clear, so that, because somebody's going to read that we've approved him trucking in a product that he's going to process on site and sell. Somebody's going to say, well, how's that agriculture if he doesn't have the apples there yet? He will at some point before very long, but he won't have all of them. And there's a thing in the ordinance that says he has to grow everything on that would ever be processed there. But if he can grow anything, he couldn't process there without it being a use variance.
What he needs is 5 acres devoted to the growing and harvesting of crops. It doesn't distinguish as far as what component of each needs to be a certain size. And here he has 4.7 acres for the silviculture activity and 2.6 for the apple, combined 7.3 acres.
Frank, the only thing we're looking to satisfy is this definition of farm. There's no limitation on the commercial activity that can be done in that zone?
Right to farm says if you grow it, you can process and sell it on site.
And if I can just jump in for 1 second, your definition in your ordinance of farm is very clear. It includes not only the harvesting of crops, but also silviculture operations. So whether they are standing alone or combined, as long as you meet the 5 acre requirement by your own definition, this is a farming operation.
I think that's...
So the woodland management area, as that you're saying that constitutes the silvicultural activities?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what it is.
All right.
So what woodland management is going on?
There will be a licensed forester that will prepare a woodland management plan, and it will result, it's usually a 10-year plan that's reviewed and approved by the DEP and the state forester, and ultimately those trees will be harvested, or a portion of them will be harvested over the period of 10 years. The wood will be sold, and not only does it generate dollars, but it also helps maintain and keep the forest there that's healthy.
Good.
Right.
That's the purpose behind it.
So if we want to close the loop on this and make sure that there's no leakage in what we think we're approving, one of the conditions of your approval would be that he does in fact file for woodland management so that he can qualify for farm assessment, and everything you've just assumed is what's actually happening. That would be a condition of your approval. That's no penalty to him. It's exactly what he intends to do.
John, would you ever want to expand the orchard to the rear area, the forested area?
if you ever did,
You know,
you are allowed to clear lands for agriculture, so you could expand the orchard if you chose to.
I appreciate that. I love hardwoods. There's a Liberty oak tree, for example. It's got to be over 200 years old, and it's
We
behind.
can get you some good bucks for that.
Yeah. I love it, and it's great. So I would have a hard time taking some of these trees out.
I think practically the desire would be to lease the fields to the north that are currently fallow. They're owned by the CNI and they don't do anything with them. So I think the long-term.
Well, there's a good fit.
Would be to do that.
Yeah.
Just so the board knows, I did, as part of the revisions for this sheet, also noted that the existing forested area will be managed for silviculture in accordance with an approved woodland management plan. So that would cover all of it. That would cover all of it.
Okay.
What are these trees that are being harvested? You mentioned an oak, but I don't think there's a forest of oaks, is there?
Oh, yes. This is a fairly dense oak stand at this point, and there's very little understory just from deer overbrowsing. So I think going forward, the woodland management plan is going to be selectively thin out trees that are appropriate for harvest, and then start replanting to recreate understory, because at this point, it's very mowed down. Really, the only trees that are left in the understory are kind of short and bonsai trees just from overbrowsing by deer.
Well, I was going to come to deer eventually. One of the questions I have is there any fence proposed or? No. Are deer an issue for?
They're a big issue for the, they're a big issue for apple trees. You know, we might do the rings around the trees for initial protection. I mean, the trees that we're planting are going to be small initially. So
Once established, they won't need those.
once they're tall enough, then they don't need it as much. We'll find other ways of protecting the trees.
Okay, anyone in the public have any questions for this witness? Seeing none?
The only other point I wanted to raise, if I may, is
Sure.
when Mr. Coates testified, he suggested the hours of operation for the tasting room would be noon to 9, and when I discussed it with him earlier today, he had said noon to 10, and I think he just misspoke. So
I did.
With the board's permission, we would like to have those hours from noon to 10.
What about Sunday? Does that remain?
No, because Sunday would remain the same, noon to, say, 6 noon to 6 on Sunday.
Okay. So 6 days a week at that same hour,
Yes,
noon to 10,
yes.
and then Sunday, separate. Okay. Anything else?
I have a question for, well, one of the calls.
One of the calls?
The ingress, egress, and pulling out onto 206, is this, you know, turn to Paul Ferraro, is that a wide enough entrance and exit onto 206?
In my opinion, it is, but at the end of the day, the final call is DOT.
Okay. That's their jurisdiction.
It's a fairly straight section of 206. I took a ride out there yesterday just to see what it looked like. And
Yeah.
The sight lines are good in both directions. So
Yeah.
it's really, it's a pretty straight with good sight
Yeah.
lines. So I don't think it's going to be too bad.
Yeah.
You can be guaranteed all the police will be parked here.
Okay, I guess there's no further questions? No? So we look to our attorney?
Counsel, did you want to give a summation or?
No.
No.
Presentation?
Okay.
You've heard some good testimony tonight. If the board is so inclined, someone can move to grant preliminary and final site plan approval for the proposed orchard and cidery. You'd also be granting a lot coverage variance because we have, primarily due to the expanded driveway, the lot coverage on site of 6.1%, or 5% maximum is otherwise permitted. There were various specific conditions of approval that we talked about, hours of operation being one. We have 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday, 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday. The applicant also needs to obtain any and all other applicable governmental approvals, including its liquor license. I think that obviously that should be done sooner than later. We're going to require, in addition to compliance with both the board planner and the township engineer's report, a plan revision to depict the trash enclosure area that Mr. Fox testified to earlier. The applicant agreed to work with the township engineer to finalize stormwater management and drainage plans for the site. Any dispute would be returned to the board for a final determination, and the applicant, in connection with our analysis about whether or not the use was permitted, has agreed to file its woodland management plan for the subject property in the event they receive any approval from this.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve with the conditions enumerated by Land Use Board.
I'll second it.
Okay, Trina?
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Mr. Starkoff?
Aye.
Ms. Christie? Aye. Mr. Rodelia?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Zupnik?
Aye.
Mr. Travellini?
Aye.
And Ms. Hutt?
Aye.
Thank you all very much.
Congratulations and good luck.
And John,
Good luck to you.
on behalf of the township, so now I'm going to, appreciate residents who feel strongly in the town and invest in the town as well. And, good luck.
Larry, he's already doing it, don't worry, we're good.
I'll tell you, as a small businessman, they're your kids, man. You put everything into them, and you get through that first 3 years, man, and you take that deep breath. It's a celebration. It is.
Thank you. Yeah, have a good evening.
You're more than welcome.
Would have liked a sample.
Oh, we'll be lined up in what, about a year, right?
In a year? Okay.
Let us know.
Put it on my calendar.
Okay. Okay, any comments from the planning board?
Only comment I have is as you all have heard me mention in the past, we've been working with Somerset County Planning and their consultants on developing a presentation on the PGIA, the Priority Growth Investment Area. And what was identified as the priority growth investment area for Bedminster was the AT&T campus. After what seems must have been almost a year of working with the county and Parsons, who's doing the work for the county, they came out with one last final draft, and they did a presentation of the final draft. Both Frank and I attended that down in Somerville a few months ago, and since then, the county did issue their study and their modeling for the AT&T property, which we actually, as a request from me, we expanded them to look not just at the AT&T campus itself, but also the 206 and 202 corridor, taking into account Mallinckrodt's operation and expansion of use over at that property. And Walter Lane from the county has offered to come to Bedminster with his experts to do a presentation to the township and to the land board on findings, what they came up with, and how they went through the process. And based upon, Carol,
It's worth doing.
turn to you to schedule it, and this is probably the appropriate body rather than the township committee to entertain that presentation from the county.
Okay.
So if you just want to work with me, Frank will
Absolutely.
reach out to Walter Lane at the county and we can get that scheduled. Also, maybe a good opportunity to also bring in the master plan committee, Colin. So we actually do, while we're here, we do have a member of the master plan committee in attendance. And so, Colin, we would expect have representation from you guys to also listen to what the county has to say. And take into consideration or not, subject to your guys' review.
So are you suggesting that we have a separate meeting or have it at
I
a?
think Walter can do it probably in 20 minutes, half an hour.
At a meeting, at a regular.
At a regular meeting, but I think
Okay.
we want to,
I think 20 minutes, his presentation may be 20 minutes, but I think the back and forth will.
That
an
could go
hour.
on for a
You think we
while.
should ask for a special meeting night?
No, but if we do have a light meeting coming up, we could,
Well, engineer
Talk
elected.
about our agenda going forward. We have September 14th, where Lamington Road LLC was carried. It may be more dangerous to schedule it in case they come that day. But we try to get that answer fairly soon. That may be appropriate. The only application that I would anticipate being heard that day would be the EDC headwork application. Because they could get their information in. Right, that's not a very complicated application either.
Right.
We have an application that just was submitted for Crossroads Business Center that I haven't done a review on yet. So that won't be ready, in my opinion, for September. That's probably going to, because we only have one meeting in September, right?
No, we have two.
No, two.
Yeah.
We have two.
Well, then
Well-
maybe,
If you're putting EDC Headworks on for September 14th with Lamington Road, then that leaves September 7th available.
That's what I was
that might be
thinking.
the way to do it. I wouldn't put EDC on for the September 7th because they may not be able to get their documentation in
Okay.
quickly enough.
Right.
It's a fast turnaround.
Right. So you want to see if we can put it on for the 7th, if they're available, and
I'll reach out to Walter and I'll copy,
Great.
copy me.
I'll-
Fine.
Carol, I'll copy
That'd be
you,
great.
Frank.
Okay. That sounds very good.
Those are my comments.
Nick, now is this planning board or zoning?
I don't know. I can never tell.
Go right ahead, Nick. Go right ahead.
No, it's planning board,
This is sort
or
of
else Larry wouldn't be here.
probably
No,
a dumb question.
Yeah, but I want to know if his question is a planning or zoning. That's what I asked him. Go right ahead, Nick.
I remember, I don't know, many months ago, we approved for the Trump Golf Course patio and an overhead roof for one of the cottages on the property. So then when I was at the Women's Open, I look up and I see a skybox for the president. I don't remember anything like that coming before this board for
Just
approval.
as the bleachers didn't come here.
It's temporary, wasn't it?
Temporary structure.
Yeah, temporary.
Those were all part of the special use permit application, not special use, it's not a special use permit, it's called a
Special event.
special event permit
Uh-huh.
for the governing body that permits those temporary structures associated with those types of activities.
Okay, so that's, didn't look very temporary to me. I mean, it's temporary?
I don't know if it's gone yet, but
Oh.
it's
It
temporary.
should be gone
Shortly.
soon, if not already.
It'd take them weeks to disassemble.
I understand.
Yeah, it's not intended.
Oh, okay.
Nick was afraid it was executive privilege.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it was permanent, I can't imagine us saying, no, you can't have that. But anyway, I thought I'd bring it up. Hey, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes, George?
Paul, you may know this. As far as maintaining your yard, what's the, there's some places on 202 here that are really getting out of hand. Is there any way to send a zoning officer
No.
there? No.
We
You don't have
proper
anything.
maintenance code like that. It's something-
Even in a commercial district like that? Well, what about just a nice phone call? It might be nice if you cut the
That's
lawn.
the best we can do. We've done that. When the mountain crop property, before they got involved, we had issues over there where it was going wild. The zoning officer did reach out to them.
Right.
And it's more of a gentle arm twisting.
Right.
Writing it, something you simply can't do that. If you've got any places in particular in mind, shoot me an email. I'll get it to the zoning officer.
Okay.
He can do the outreach for that.
So, if I'm thinking of the same property you're thinking of, there's a broker sign
Yes.
right in front, and
Yes.
I'll tell you, in other experiences, the town calls the broker and says, you're trying to lease that property, your sign is up there, get someone out there to do some maintenance.
Yeah, like you said, it might be helpful.
Let me know what you've got, George, and I'll
Okay.
relay it to the zoning officer.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so we talked about our planning for the future. So we're going to put EDC Headworks on for the 14th? Okay. And that's all we have. That's all we have right now. That's it, right? and Leamington Road.
Well, 1120 Landington Road, we can't put on the agenda.
Because they're incomplete.
They're incomplete, but Leamington Road is on for the
No,
14th.
that was me, I just got confused. There's too many Lamingtons.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I know.
I'd like to hear.
I know, it's
Everything's a
confusing.
Lamington or a farm lately.
I know, it's confusing me
So
too.
confusing.
Yeah, right. Right. Okay, I think that's it. Do we hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Here, here.
Second.
Okay.